Prana is the one and only life force behind everything. You know, when you read the ancient scriptures of India, there's no evil forces and good forces and heavenly forces and hellish forces. Nonsense. There's just oneness. In other words, there's one force behind all of life. Pine tree, deer, yourself, me, one life force. This one life force is called prana. And prana essentially can come into you in three ways. One is through sunshine. The other is through healthy food, food that is in line with your body type. So like the science of Ayurveda teaches you what your body type is. And then you try to consume food in line with your body type. So, sunshine, healthy food, and incoming breath. What I'm teaching is Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is the science of managing incoming prana, worshipping incoming prana as the force of life, and then merging with it. Merging means when your meditation gets deeper, you and the incoming breath merge. So if somebody's name is Nancy, as this Kriya Yoga is getting deeper, Nancy and the incoming breath and the outgoing breath are merging into one wave. What we call deep meditation is you become one with the breath movement. But what's happening is much more subtle than some meditator named Nancy breathing. That's not what's happening. What I'm saying is there's one life force that keeps everything alive, and there's this one science called Kriya Yoga. Through Kriya Yoga, you are welcoming the incoming God force through prana. You are managing it, meaning you're moving it around various energy centers. According to Kriya Yoga, you have 72,000 energy centers called nadis. So in Kriya Yoga, you are managing how you distribute the life force, God force around your body. You're also worshiping the life force, God force. Meaning, if there's one source of life, we may as well worship it because it's the one source of life. If you think about the logic of this, life means breath. Any living thing that you've ever encountered has some way of breathing. Even if you approach the leaf of a plant, that leaf is breathing in order to take in sunlight and to give out vapor. So life equals breath. And then look at the other side, breath equals life. Because if you don't breathe for 4 minutes, you're gone. Life is breath, breath is life. It's as simple as that. And there's only one force. Kriya Yoga is the science of bringing in that force, managing it, distributing it, and worshiping it. Actually, what you're worshiping is your real self. Because your passport number, your master's degree, your first name and last name have nothing to do with your real self. Why? Because let's say you're born as a baby and we switch you with another baby and we send you to Sweden instead of Iran. Then you just become Swedish as far as your name in your passport goes. But you have a nature. You might be talented in gymnastics. You might have a musical ear. That's your real self. Doesn't matter whether you have a Swedish passport or Egyptian passport. Okay? That talent, your musical talent, or your ability to move in yoga or gymnastics, that's part of your real self. But your real self doesn't even have bones, cells, and molecules. Why? Because you're made of energy. You know, this heat coming off your palm is energy. Your heart gives out electrical impulses measured by an EKG machine. Your brain is giving off electrical signals as measured by an EEG machine. Your heart is a kind of energy, it's giving off energy. Your lung movement is energy. And therefore, to be very blunt, you're an energy field. What happens is the ego comes on top of that and says, I am the daughter of so-and-so, and we are upper middle class, and the BMW gives us more prestige. This is all ego stuff coming on top of an energy field. If you think of yourself as an energy field, your immediate power increases. In other words, the moment you think of yourself as first name, last name, you start to lose energy. Like snobism, racial prejudice, this country versus that country, all of that stuff. The dollar versus the euro, you start to lose money. Lose money, lose energy, whatever. It's like if you focus on money, you start to lose money. If you focus on energy, you start to gain money. Talk to any millionaire. If you talk to any millionaire, they'll tell you the way we expand wealth is not to count money. We get into our energy and we give out that energy. Any wealthy person knows this. They never sit down and count bills because that contracts you. Same thing with love, physical energy. Anyways, coming back to prana, there's some terminology I want you to understand. Prana is the overall life force that keeps anything alive. That's prana. Then somebody may have the question, what is Kundalini? Kundalini is the same God force moving in your spine. Right above your tailbone, there's a reservoir of dormant spiritual electricity. And then through a teacher who has that electricity awake, you can get your Kundalini awakened. When it's awakened, you start to understand spiritual things. Like you look at your dog and all of a sudden the dog is talking to you. Not in English, you just understand each other. Or you're speaking to your rose bush and you really start to feel like there's interaction between me and the rose bush. This sounds crazy to people who don't have that direct experience of subtle energy. I'm going to explain something about incoming prana. When you breathe in, Kriya Yoga says you're directly bringing in the breath of God. So incoming breath, God comes in. We're not talking about religion. We're talking about metaphysical energy. When you breathe in, life comes in beyond oxygen. So there's a mantra. The mantra says hum. Hum means Allah, Jesus Christ, Buddha, the God force comes in. Hum, like hum. And then you hold the breath. When you hold the breath, you're distributing the God force through 72,000 energy channels in your body. So hum, the life force comes in, and then when you're holding it, you're heating up the incoming life force and you're kind of distributing it amongst these energy channels. And then we get to exhalation. Exhalation means surrender, release, and get rid of thoughts, get rid of carbon monoxide, get rid of toxins, get rid of muscular stress, all of that. So hum comes in life, and then hold. when you hold, you're heating up that life force, distributing it in your body, and then sa. Sa means get rid of the toxins, release your muscle tension, get rid of unwanted thoughts, and then the very last movement is the pause at the end of exhalation. And Kriya Yoga says, if you want to know the real you, spend a few seconds in the pause at the end of exhalation. You should try this in meditation. If you pause longer at the end of exhalation, look at this, look at my exhalation. This is nearly the end. And then I'm going to do, when there's not one drop of breath left in the lung, it's like this is the end, and then I stop and I go one more floor. At the very end, when there's not one bit of breath left in the lung, that's when you merge with your most authentic self. So you don't want to harm yourself. All we're saying is the quietest moment of the ego, the quietest moment of the mind is like right there. This is your authentic self. It's when the mind is quiet, the ego of Kambiz Nafisi, the son of Habib Nafisi, all of that is gone at the end of the exhalation. And then you're just an energy field. Your heartbeat. Your brain waves are giving off vibrations. Now, in terms of vibrations, Kriya Yoga splits this into multiple layers. At the grossest level, when you breathe, there's oxygen. That's the most gross level. Beyond that, there's prana. Well, no, beyond that, there's gross life force. Beyond that is subtle life force. Beyond that is vibration. Beyond vibration, there's light. Beyond light, there's consciousness. So I'm going to explain this in simpler terms. Every time you breathe, at the grossest level, there's just oxygen. One layer more subtle than that, there's a grosser form of life force coming in. Prana, that's gross level prana. And then there's subtler prana. It's more refined. So you don't feel that, that's very refined. Beyond subtle prana, there's vibrations. In other words, all over your energy field, there are these waves, pulsations, vibrations. Like, think about your heartbeat, that's a pulsation. But more subtle than the heart, there's pulsations coming off your brain. Those can be measured with an EEG machine. So oxygen, gross prana, subtle prana, vibrations, and then if you've studied physics, you know that a high vibrating energy field starts to emanate light. If this energy field is vibrating very highly, it starts to produce light. So beyond vibration, we have light. The reason they paint so many of the prophets with auras around their head is because if you've got a high vibrating energy field, you're emanating light. You know, when I'm in deep meditation, some of my students have said that from here to here, we're seeing some subtle light. But you could have it. There's no copyright on this. If your mind is quiet, you're vibrating highly. So your energy field is emanating light. I took one group to the Caspian. We had a garden at the Caspian in Ramsan. And people came out of deep meditation. They looked at this big tree that we had and two of them screamed. And I knew what was going on. I said, why are you screaming? And they said, we're seeing some light around the leaves. And believe it or not, animals can see this. A dog can see your fear. Little children come to you when you're most loving. Go to a big party. The children will pick the most high vibrating person. They'll go to that. Dogs, cats, and children, they pick up on vibrational fields. If children love you, you should feel very honored because they're picking up on your vibrations. They'll never come to an aggressive person. Same with animals. So Kriya Yoga is the science of employing breath to bring in not only oxygen, but the one force that gives life to everything is called prana. That same force going up and down your spinal column is called kundalini. Now, everybody is endowed with physical kundalini. That's what's keeping you alive right now. The fact that you can wiggle your toes, that means you have life force inside you. But there's a spiritual aspect of that which can be enlivened by a teacher. So the Persian poet Rumi, when he saw his guru Shams, he basically fainted. And later on, he wrote, part of his poem said, I used to be dead, now I'm alive. Morde budam zinde shudam. What that means is that the spiritual aspect of Kundalini was not alive in me. Now that it is, I feel like the pine tree communicates with me. I feel like I'm looking in the horse's eye and I can communicate with the horse. Humans are extremely dumb because most animals can talk to each other. Most plants in the forest know about each other. The humans, prior to understanding spirituality, they can't hear anything. They can't talk to plants. They don't know the interdependence of life. We just keep killing each other. We're very dumb. Excuse me to the camera. We're very dumb. Until we're awakened. So the Persian poet Rumi said, I used to be dead, now I'm alive. He meant the spiritual aspect of Kundalini is now awakened. In another talk, I'll talk to you about what Kundalini is. In some parts of the world, they call it Jane Alam. Some other parts of the world, they call it Holy Spirit. It is an energy that is awakened in your body. It's the God force in your body. We'll join each other in another talk.